Okay, so thank you for joining us today for the webinar, Connecting Graphic Medicine to Your Community with Programming. The goal is that by the end of the program, you'll be energized to include graphic medicine in the work that you do and be able to identify potential strengths and pitfalls of this type of programming. We actually have a fairly large group. We currently have about 27 people on. So during the Q&A section, I'm going to keep you muted, but please use the chat box to ask any questions you have. So I have somebody in the chat box asking if there's any, can you hear me? Yes, no, maybe. Okay. Yes, okay, I got it, yes. So, real quick agenda, welcome and introduction, just a real quick overview of NLM and NNLM, our hosts for today. Then Alice Stokes is going to talk about the graphic medicine book clubs that they've run at the University of Vermont, and then Tori Rossetti is going to talk about the programming that we did here at UMass Medical School when the NLM Ill-Conceived and Well-Drawn exhibit was on display. And then at the end, we're going to have plenty of time for discussion and Q&A. So just real quick, the NLM, the National Library of Medicine, is the world's largest biomedical library. The National Library of Medicine maintains and makes available a vast print collection and produces electronic information resources on a wide range of topics that are searched billions of times each day by millions of people around the globe. It also supports and conducts research, development, and training in biomedical informatics and health information technologies. And then the National Network of Libraries of Medicine, NNLM, is 8 regions across the country that support all libraries, as well as working with health professionals, community, and faith-based organizations through providing access to quality health information, delivering training on NLM and other reliable health information resources, and partnering with local, regional, and national organizations to further the mission to improve the public's access to biomedical information. And so this presentation today, this webinar, is under that training mandate that we have. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alice Stokes. Alice is the liaison to nursing at the University of Vermont Medical Center and to medical student education at the Lerner College of Medicine. In 2017, she began a graphic medicine collection at Dana Medical Library. To date, she has facilitated 2 graphic medicine book clubs and is planning a 3rd for spring 2019. She is also collaborating with Lerner College of Medicine faculty to create a 1-month elective on graphic medicine and psychiatry for medical students. So, Alice, I'm going to give you the power.
Okay, great. All right, hi everybody. My name is Alice Stokes, like Sarah said, and I work at the Dana Medical Library. We are located at the University of Vermont in Burlington, Vermont. And we serve a College of Medicine, as well as a College of Nursing, and Allied Health, and also an academic medical center. And like Sarah said, I'm the liaison to the preclinical medical education, so the first 2 years, and also to the nursing, all the nurses at the hospital here. And graphic medicine caught my eye in 2017, mostly due to the graphic medicine kits that the New England region started making available to libraries. And I was just looking for something kind of new and engaging to do, in particular to get the attention of medical students. So in the summer of 2017, we started a collection. We had a few titles already in our collection, about 5, and we've expanded it to about 20. So it's not a large collection like many of you. We you may have experienced a flat budget, so we've had a flat budget for the past 5 years. So we have pretty limited collection funds at this point, so it had to be pretty small, but we chose 20 give or take titles that we thought would be most interesting to our patron groups. And we display them in a lounge area of our library, so we have reduced our open study space in the past few years, but we do have a nice lounge area that's directly in the line of sight when you walk into the library. So this is a visible location, and we put them in face-out shelving, so they're pretty easy to spot. They do circulate just like our regular books do for 4 weeks, so they are available to check out, but many people just pick them up and read them in the library and put them back on the shelf. So one of the things that we did with this collection is we used it as a hook to engage students, particularly medical students, at the new medical student activities fair that we have every year in August. So the library does receive all of the medical students for about 15 minutes during their orientation week as part of a tour. But it's a difficult time to really create a personal connection with students. They're trying to figure out where their lockers are and get their IDs and just figure out what's going on. So we do try to tell them a little bit about library services then, but our goal that week really is to make sure that they feel some connection with the library. They see us as a friendly place, as friendly people who can help them and maybe offer them something that they weren't aware we did. So at this orientation fair, we really try to do something that is eye-catching, and it's a kind of a social event. It's at the very end of their orientation week on a Friday, so they're pretty full. Their brains are pretty full of crucial information, so we just try to make a connection with them. So there are a lot of other tables that are giving out swag. There's free Ben & Jerry's because we're in Vermont. So each year we try to pick something a little different to do, and this year we use the graphic medicine collection as a display, which was eye-catching and just created a nice opportunity for conversations and engagement with students. And it was well received. And at that time, we let them know that we were planning to do some book clubs, and we hadn't picked the title yet, but just to know that it was on its way. So our first book club that we ran was in October 2017, and we picked the book Fun Home by Alison Bechdel. So we picked this book for a couple of reasons. At that point, it was a year or two after the Tony award-winning Broadway musical based on Fun Home had been on Broadway, and the first regional production was taking place in Burlington during that month. So there was a lot of kind of local buzz about it, and it was in the news. In addition, Alison Bechdel is actually a Vermonter, so she's really well known in the community, not only for this book, but her comic strip likes to watch out for ran in our local paper for years and years. So she's pretty well known and has a fair amount of cachet. October is also National Coming Out Month, so it seemed like a natural fit. In addition, this book just has so many different themes to discuss: sexual orientation, coming out, mental health, suicide, so it just seemed like it would be a rich book for discussion. Also, it was one of the book club titles that were available as book club kits from the NER, so it was a nice bonus to be able to borrow 6 additional books. And we picked October also because medical students have kind of gotten into the swing of things, but they're still pretty fresh and not completely burned out, so we thought we might have a chance to really engage them at that point. One thing that we did was we reached out to partner with a medical student group since they were one of our key audiences for this book club, probably our key audience. So our College of Medicine has a number of student interest groups on different topics, and they have a student interest group on gender and sexuality. So it seemed like a natural fit to partner with them. So I reached out to them, just emailed their leaders and said, I'm thinking of doing this book club on this topic, and what do you think? And I got an enthusiastic response from them. So I was able to have a planning meeting with them before we even set the date, just to discuss the idea, go over some ideas that I had and get some of their input. And they helped me with things like setting the date, figuring out a good time to have it, both the day of the week and the time of the day, and what part of the month would be good. And also, fortunately, 2 medical students who are part of that group volunteered to co-facilitate the discussion with me, which was great. So it wasn't just me facilitating, we were able to have some peer facilitation, which was really nice. Yep, that's it on this slide. So for promotion, we did a few things. So we made some posters. The previous slide had a visual of our poster. We hung those in the library and around the College of Medicine. We also put up a blog post on our library website, and then we put up some social media posts. So we have Instagram and Facebook as our main social media presence. And fortunately, the Instagram post in particular was picked up and reposted by the College of Medicine and also the hospital's social media group, which gave us a lot further reach, which was really nice. And then one really nice thing about partnering with the student interest group was that their members promoted the event, the book club, on their class Facebook pages, which are informal. We don't have access to them, but it's really one of the key ways that the medical students communicate with each other and promote things that are happening. So that was a really big benefit to us because sometimes it's difficult for us as librarians to know how to really reach the medical students. We can't email class lists, so this was a really big bonus. And on their own, the 2 facilitators created a Google form for medical students to RSVP, which was great because then I had email addresses and I could have a contact list and just follow up with folks with a reminder of, hey, the book club's coming up next week. Just a reminder, this is when it is, and that was really, really nice. So the results, the first book club was really, I felt, a big success. We had more participants than I anticipated. I really wasn't sure what to expect. But the medical students were really enthusiastic. So we had a 1-hour brown bag book discussion during lunch. I provided some cookies and cider, which is always nice to have food. And we lent out all 6 of the books from the book club kit from the NER. We also have 2 copies in our collection. And then also I found that a lot of people had personal copies or just had read this book already at some point. So they came because they wanted to talk about it, but maybe they had read it a year or more previous. So in the end, we had 11 medical students. We had 2 librarians, myself and one of my colleagues, and then 1 employee from the hospital came. So we didn't end up getting a lot of folks other than medical students, but since they were our main audience for this, that felt okay to me. And the medical students were really enthusiastic about having a chance to discuss a book in a setting that wasn't graded, which I found really interesting. They just liked being able to read the book in a low pressure setting and then also have a really open discussion about some of these emotional and personal issues in a really non-threatening environment. It was a pretty loosely facilitated discussion. The 2 student facilitators and I took turns. We took the book club guide from the NER and identified the questions we wanted to use and added a few of our own and just kind of rotated when the conversation came to a lull. We did set some ground rules at the beginning, which I think is a really good idea and I would recommend doing. Especially because this book, a lot of people brought up personal experiences or connections to the story, so we established that it was a safe space, it was anything that was brought up should be kept confidential, and that everybody should have a chance to contribute. So just setting some of those ground rules, I think, made the conversation a really nice one, and the hour went really fast. So that was our first book club. Big success in my eyes, more successful than I expected, so I was really happy about that. I expected to do one in the spring last year, and my spring just got way too busy. So the next book club that I ran was this fall, also in October. And again, we did a display on these graphic medicine books at our new medical student activities fair. And this time, I was really having a tough time selecting which title to do next. So we did a poll. We just had them, we put some of the titles up and we had them vote. and the top vote getter was Marbles by Ellen Forney. Coming in close second was The Bad Doctor. And then after that, quite a bit behind were Rosalie Lightning, Pedro and Me, and Can't We Talk About Something More Pleasant. And all of these books are available from the NER as book kits, and I was really counting on using the book club kit to supplement our collection, so that's why we stuck to those titles. So Marbles was the winner, and I was really excited about that because it's a really engaging book, and I found it really interesting, and I really thought it would attract participants. However, I didn't find a student interest group to team up with on this one. There just wasn't a natural fit, so I was a little disappointed about that. I still promoted it, but I didn't have that buy-in with the students. I think there's a little less name recognition of this book as well. And in the end, I feel like I picked a bad time for the book club. I picked a time when they didn't have an exam, they didn't have a lot going on that week, but I failed to realize it was the Tuesday after their family and parent weekend, which followed the white coat ceremony. So in retrospect, I imagine many students were spending time with family and friends that weekend and not reading a graphic novel. So lesson learned there. So we did similar promotion for Marbles, posters, blog posts, social media. It didn't get picked up quite as much. Maybe that had something to do with the lower success of this book club. So in the end, similar format, provided the cookies and cider. We had the book club kit, and we have one copy of this book in our collection. But we only had myself and another librarian actually show up to the event. So we had 3 patrons who borrowed books and RSVP'd, but in the end, something came up for each of them. One woman was having a baby. Other people just had other things going on, so they couldn't make it to the discussion. So that was a little disappointing. But I think I did learn some lessons from both the successful and the less successful book club. So I would really encourage anybody who's trying to do this, and I'm going to encourage myself to really make sure I partner with a group or a program or a department for the next one, just to have that collaboration. To get input on scheduling, so maybe I need to just think more about the broader scope of scheduling, not just the medical student schedule. Asking for RSVPs, even though it's not a surefire thing that people will show up if they RSVP, at least you have a chance to remind them about the event. And then also just looking for ties to your curriculum or local interest or current events. So future plans, I do plan to run another book club. We are hosting the Graphic Medicine Ill-Conceived and Well-Drawn exhibit here in Burlington in March and April. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what Tori has to say about what they did, because I'm working on my programming for that right now, and also working on selecting a book for the spring book club. One really positive and unexpected outcome of the Marbles Book Club, even though the book club itself wasn't that successful, our psychiatry clerkship director saw the poster for the Marbles Book Club and emailed me and said, hey, I'm thinking about running this 4-week elective course on graphic medicine and psychiatry, and would you like to collaborate with me? So that was a really wonderful and unexpected outcome, and I am working with him, and the first class should run in April, and then hopefully another one in December. So that has turned into a really exciting opportunity for me, even though the book club itself didn't attract a lot of folks. So that's what I have learned so far about book clubs, and I'm looking forward to learning more about running these book clubs when we do our next one in the next few months. So my email is here. If anybody wants to follow up with me after the fact, I'm happy to chat with you about any of my experiences. And there's just a few credits.
Thanks, Alice. Just a quick reminder for folks who may have joined us a little bit late, we have currently 40 people on the call, so we're not going to be able to unmute, but if you have questions, please put them in the chat box, and remember to send them either to me or to all participants. Next, we have Tori Rossetti, who is who worked on the on the NLM's exhibit, The Graphic Medicine Ill-Conceived and Well-Drawn, the programming that was done around that at the Lamar Suter Library at the University of Massachusetts Medical School.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for coming today. I'm Tori Rossetti, an Education and Clinical Services Librarian at UMass Medical School, like Sarah just said. So today I'm planning to share with you a little bit about how we came up with programming to go with the exhibit and talk a little bit about what we thought did and didn't work for what we were doing. All right. So just a little background for people who aren't familiar with it. The Graphic Medicine Ill-Conceived and Well-Drawn exhibition is a really cool set of posters, 6 posters, and they're there on the bottom of the slide, that are kind of just standalone posters. They were produced by the NLM and curated by Ellen Forney, who Alice just mentioned with the book Marbles. She also just came out with a book called Rock Steady. The exhibit was scheduled to come to UMass well in advance. We knew about a year before that it was going to be with us, September through October 2018. We were really excited about hosting it, but we weren't sure how to really kind of do programming around these posters. We didn't want to just kind of have the exhibit come in and then not really do anything with it. So we kind of got together and asked ourselves, how are we going to connect the exhibit meaningfully to existing library resources and outreach? How do we design programming for this exhibition? And how do we guide or plan for how the community is going to engage with this exhibit? All right. So the first thing we kind of did was really take stock of our resources. You don't really know what you can do until you know what you have. So one of the biggest resources and the thing that was the biggest help was the Graphic Medicine Task Force. So big shout out to Sarah, Tess Greinock, and Marianne Sainer, the Graphic Medicine Task Force members, and also to Mary Piorin, the library director, and Jessica Killam, my boss, who really, you know, put forth a ton of ideas, lots of energy and time. Other resources that were going to be super important, we have a graphic medicine book collection that was started by Matthew No. Sorry, I'm just laughing at a comment. That was started by Matthew No while he was still here. And that collection is about 127 books. So we had a lot of different titles to work with. Space was going to be a huge resource. We have access to amphitheaters throughout the school, and the library is a natural gathering place. We had a budget, and we had the support of administrators and managers. We also have, there's an amazing online graphic medicine community. People are enthusiastic, willing to share, and willing to give advice. And we also all were given time. Time to take out of our regular day-to-day jobs and really think about how we wanted to do this. So our audience is broad, which can be tricky and a blessing. We have medical, nursing, and graduate school of biomedical science students. They're all busy. We have faculty and staff. They're also busy. We have residents, clinicians, and nurses, and you guessed it, they're also busy. We also have members of the public through some different outreach initiatives, both from the NLM, NER, and from some different members of the library, strong connection with the public library in Worcester, and different things like that. So we really just kind of had a broad audience to kind of pick and choose who we were going to aim things at. So we decided to kind of start out by setting goals about what we really wanted to try to do around this exhibition, what outcomes we wanted to see. One of them was we wanted to raise awareness of our graphic medicine book collection. It's an awesome collection. We have a budget for it, which is amazing, so it is continuing to grow. And then we thought indicators of that, of success there would be if the circulation stats went up during the time the exhibit was there and after. Get students to start thinking about using comics or drawings to process information. We were going to use indicators of success for that, use of comics in an existing personal narratives group, and actually the leader of that group has started sending me graphic medicine comics from medical student blogs, so that may have been somewhat successful. And then to really demonstrate to our population the ways that comics can be used in medical education, scientific communication, and health literacy, and kind of the indicator of that being successful would be if the use of comics increased in their curriculum. Some of our goals were probably going to be easily achievable and easy to measure if they were successful, and others were definitely going to be more difficult. So I think if I looked at goals for next time, I would definitely try to set more easily attainable goals or easily measurable. So we really went all out on brainstorming programming. We kind of said, what can we possibly do? This list was all of the ideas that we spitballed in our first couple of meetings together. You'll see some things on there that didn't make it into the final thing, but I wanted to include this in the slideshow because I know there are people that are trying to create programs. And if you see anything on this list that you think you can use, please steal it. Let me know if you have any questions about it. Some of my favorite ideas that didn't happen, I wanted to do a Pictionary party with medical topics only. That just didn't happen. And then I wanted to have a comics jam. That also just didn't happen. So for things that did happen, our final programming list, we were going to invite speakers. At the end, we couldn't limit it down to one speaker because there are just so many amazing people with so much to offer our community out there in the graphic medicine world. So we ended up having one panel and one individual, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We also decided to do something that we called Copying Comics Wednesday. So we made that be a drop-in coloring activity, really low stress, to try to get the students into this space to kind of be coloring, be drawing, and just like be around the collection and the books. And then collection promotion, display provocative, colorful titles front and center. So right as you walk in the library, on one side you see the exhibit, and on the other you see these titles. And then to try to connect to the curriculum, to reach out to existing humanities and medicine folks and try to connect with them, see what they're doing and how we can kind of connect to that. So just a little overview of things that were successful and things that were not. One of the things that was really successful, I'll talk about, that was okay. Yeah, so anytime you offer students free coffee or snacks, they're going to hear about it. They'll tell their friends, and it's going to be really successful. So coffee worked. Connecting to their curriculum really worked. For the single speaker, we invited Matteo Farinella, the author of Neurocomic and the Senses, and it just so happened that someone in GSBS was teaching Neurocomic in their class. So that was a really great in for us. The panel, we had M.K. Zerwick, Dana Walrath, and Kathy Leamy, and they did an amazing job on the panel. That was recorded, so if anyone wants to see it, I'll provide the link at the end. I think that was an issue of timing, and also we didn't do a great job connecting with a group of people. Kind of like Alice was saying, we didn't have any student groups or class groups behind that. So the attendance for that particular panel was not as high. The other thing that was really successful was promoting the collection. I have some statistics on that for the next slide. And then what didn't really work was being passive about the programming. I think that I could have done a better job really going out and finding stakeholders in the community, getting people to kind of pledge to come and participate, talking to people about what it was all about. Everyone understood the coffee part of Coffee and Comics, and the part about the comics, I think, was a little bit passed over for them. All right, so let's go on to the next slide. So circulation by the numbers, we have about 172 items in our graphic medical book collection. And as you can kind of see, we've had some real highs and lows, but everything, it kind of hovers around about 15 average a month. So during October, we enjoyed 50 kind of hits. This includes soft checkouts, renewals, check-ins. So all of those different statistics, books were moving in October, which was the month that the exhibit had been there for a couple of weeks and was there into about the second week of October. So people were really, we can absolutely say that the exhibit increased the circulation for us. Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit about what we did to get the word out. So Tess Greinock, one of my superstar committee members, really went above and beyond. She called probably 20 different bookstores, and we were able to get posters out into the community to invite people to both the panel and in to see the exhibit. So we had event posters in about 10 local bookstores, and that included nearby college campuses. We got posters into student lounges, in hallways and high traffic areas. We had an entire display in the glass display case outside of the library. So as you walked up to the library, there was no mistake about what was happening in the space at that time. The UMass Office of Communications got on board and kind of got the word out. It was in our student newsletter. We put it on Twitter. There were library website announcements. We emailed it to every single listserv we could think of. So if you saw it 3 times, I'm sorry, but we were going for saturation. We attended the Student Activities Fair, and what was great about that was I brought some of the graphic medicine books with me, and just seeing our first-year students who had been there for about a week see graphic medicine books and want to pick them up and open them and talk about them really excited me. What was great about that too was a lot of them said, oh yeah, I saw your poster in our lounge. So I felt like they were getting the exposure, and then I gave them a space to kind of talk about the different things we wanted to do. We contacted some local organizations, and then word of mouth, we attended the Comics and Medicine Conference in Vermont, and Sarah and I both talked up both the exhibit and what we were going to do with that. All right, so I promised you some links to some different things. So when I did the panel with MK, Kathy, and Dana, one of the things that they really liked was the list of questions I came up with to ask them. We didn't get through all of them. I think I wrote like 30 or 40 questions, and we only got to actually ask about 15 of those. So I would love for everyone that wants to use those or finds a use for them to go ahead and use that. We have the actual panel itself, and I'm going to have to check with Tess about whether or not Mateo was recorded. If Mateo was, I'll figure out a way to get that to people if they're interested in it. And then I also included the Coffee and Comic Wednesday prompts in case you guys have more success with it at your institutions than we did. All right. And of course, here's my contact information, and please feel free to reach out to me, ask me any questions you might think of even after the fact. There's my email and my Twitter username. And that was all I pretty much had for you.
So I can make these slides available once we're done. So everybody, you don't have to worry if you were furiously scribbling to try to get any of those links or any email addresses down. So what we have now is some time, about 20 minutes or so, to do some question and answer. These are just some questions that I was thinking about, but feel free to throw any other questions up in the chat box that have, you know, would help you get started with graphic medicine, and then we have Alice and Tori here to answer those questions. So until I see something in the chat box, I'm just going to ask. So you guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that I heard, I think, from both of you was that what really worked was having partners. But what didn't quite work was that sometimes people sort of needed a little bit of hand-holding. They didn't really maybe understand what was going on. This is sort of outside of their normal, what they were doing. So with your partners, did that apply to the partners as well? Did you have to do some hand-holding to get people involved? And what did that sort of look like? How did you walk them through the process of, this is why we're working with you, this is what we want to do, things like that?
This is Alice. I would say it was a really natural fit with the particular partner group that I had. As soon as I suggested the idea of this book club to them and the title, Fun Home, they were all over it. I think it really helped that this is one of the better known graphic novels, and it was a lot, you know, there was a lot of current awareness of it. So in that sense, it was just made it really easy. But I think for the next title, my guess is there'll be a little more of a stretch with whatever partner group that I select. So I probably will need to do a little more outreach and proactive kind of explaining of the concept and what the tie-in for them will be. So I definitely am thinking about that, especially because I didn't find a natural fit for marbles, and now I think, oh, I probably could have stretched a little more to find a natural, you know, a partner for that. So I think it's really worth laying that groundwork, and I think generally people do find these topics exciting and the format really engaging, so I think with some groundwork you could probably get some interest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so at UMass, Tess Greinock actually did a lot of the planning for Mateo's discussion. She's the liaison to the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences, so some of that groundwork that Alice was talking about was already laid there. And then once we found out that it was actually being taught in someone's course, the neurocomic was on our reserve shelf, we had a really easy time of working with the faculty member to turn that class time actually into the time that Mateo was going to come and visit. I don't know if that was because the faculty member was going to be out of town anyway, but either way it worked out really well, and they didn't require any convincing. They were all about having Mateo come in and present, and then even stay after for a career chat with the GSBS students. So it was just that program turned out to be very rich for a population of students that actually usually feels really isolated. So that was great.
So in the chat box we had a collection management question as well. So there's a question about, are there any vendors that are good for graphic medicine collection, or are there any purchase plans that might be available to help people build collections?
So for us at UMass, what I usually do is, I mentioned before the amazing online graphic medicine community. What I'll actually usually do is I'll start at what is the website? The graphic medicine website.
Graphicmedicine.org.
Yep, graphicmedicine.org. They offer book reviews. Yeah, thank you, Alice. Alice Jaggers and Matthew No are working on a list, and that is ongoing. I'm sorry, Alice and Matthew, I don't have the exact details about that. We actually just maintain a spreadsheet of what we would like ordered and an Amazon link, and that's how we have been developing our collection. Some of these books are only published by small presses, so you do have to order them directly from the publisher, and some of them are difficult to find, I think, after the fact, but if you kind of are keeping up with the graphic medicine Twitterverse, they'll let you know when things are going to get released, and you can try to order right away or collect that link for later.
Yeah, and for us, we actually got a list from Matthew, which was great, of just kind of his suggestions, and then I went through that and selected the ones that just seemed the most relevant to our needs and budget limitations, and selected, again, about 15 to buy. And from there, I've just been slowly adding, like we purchased Rocksteady, which is Ellen Forney's second book, as Tori mentioned, to go with our collection when we were doing the Marbles Book Club. So we are slowly building, you know, one or two here and there, and we've just been buying them through Amazon or wherever they're available. So it's pretty ad hoc at the moment.
So it looks like there's some issue with sending to all participants, so I just wanted to let people know that in the chat box, Matthew No sent me a comment, annotated bibliography of core titles being developed from an ALA Carnegie Whitney grant. There's an old list that that Matthew created that I now have here with the NER that will also help too, that he did the original webinar, and then there's also a link that was put up. So Tori, there was a question in the chat box specifically for you about the personal narrative group here at UMass.
Yeah, so one of our clinicians runs a personal narrative group, and he runs it as essentially, he has a listserv, and people, if they want to contribute, will send him the narratives that they want to share, and he will then send it out as kind of a collected group of stories, and that's all, it's all private within UMass. So I don't know that I would be able to share that, but it is, we do have this clinician that is already doing things with personal narratives as a writing thing, and offers, I think he offers either an FCE, which is a flexible clinical experience, or just a group that will meet and just write. And I really would love to kind of harness that energy and direct it towards graphic medicine at some point. I hope that answered the question, and please let us know if it didn't.
So there is a link in the chat box that's a Google Doc. It's a spreadsheet that is the graphic medicine database that Alice Jaggers is working on and updating. So just so people are aware, that's where that particular Google link sends you. So one of the other things, as you were both speaking, I was thinking about is what's sort of the time commitment and the money commitment that you put in to these programs?
Alice, do you want to go, or?
Sure. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I would say not for me so far, not an enormous amount of either. You know, kind of concentrated time commitment when we were selecting the books and ordering them and getting them cataloged, and then around each book club. And other than that, you know, the collection just kind of runs itself. And I don't have a figure off the top of my head, but a few $100s. I mean, we are pretty constricted at the moment in our collections budget, so it's a pretty small amount of money that we've spent on this. So I would say for me it's been fun and exciting and something different, and in some sense a chance to kind of put on like a reader's advisory, more public library hat, which is fun. It's a little different than the, you know, Medline searching that I do. so much of my day. So that's been really nice. But it hasn't, for me, it has not been a huge time commitment, and I've been able to fit it into my workload pretty easily.
So I think that the exhibit is just a little different because you know it's coming, and I would say we really got down to planning it probably 5 months before it was due to arrive. The committee met probably about once a month before it came, and then the time commitment ramped up a little bit directly before it came. I would say I was probably spending 2 or 3 hours a day, like the week before the exhibit came, finalizing, coordinating with the speakers, finalizing all of the brochures and posters, and writing the announcements that were going to go out, contacting listservs. And again, I had a great group that I was working with to really split that up. People were contacting people that they had relationships with. So the time commitment for the graphic medicine exhibit really was steady at the beginning, ramped up before the exhibit. Then it was probably a matter of 3 or 4 hours a week while the exhibit was there, just because I did the weekly Wednesdays coffee and comics. And then the time around having the speakers there, that was probably another 3 or 4 hours for each of the days that they were there. For money, funding was a really nebulous topic for us. We were told there was a budget. We weren't told what really the ceiling was. We would say, is it okay to spend this? And we would get a yes. So we would go back and say, well, is it okay to spend this? And we would get a yes. So I think at the end, you know, we hopefully paid the speakers fairly. I don't have a final number on that, but we did pay a fee for them to come, and then for their travel and daily expenses. And then the cost of the exhibit itself is just shipping, I believe. So, yeah.
So then Matthew in the chat box said a good way to pitch a small collection for graphic medicine is that 15 comics is about the cost of a major medical textbook, which is a good point to make, that most of these comics aren't coming from obscure imprints or anything like this. You can buy them through normal sort of collection management means. Are there any resources that you use to support the graphic medicine work, either the collections that you use or the programming in terms of, you know, this is one person's story, how do we sort of build around that?
One of the resources that I definitely used, that I already mentioned, was graphicmedicine.org. Another thing that was awesome was going to the Comics in Medicine conference in Vermont. There was just a wealth of information there for it. This year, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but unfortunately for me because I can't travel internationally, it's right in UK, which is an amazing opportunity for people that can travel internationally. If you have the opportunity to go to that conference, I would suggest you go. The array of, I can't understate how important the people who like comics and medicine are as a resource. They're really, really important. So let's
and I would reiterate. Yeah, I would second that graphicmedicine.org site has so much information, and then just having the NER book club kits for book clubs is just a great resource because they lend you the books, and they also have some suggested discussion questions, which is really nice, and then some Medline Plus materials, which for my population maybe was not quite so relevant, but certainly if you were doing this at a public library or a different library, I think those would be really, really nice handouts. Since I was working mostly with medical students, they were really looking at it from a different perspective than a consumer perspective.
Matthew No also does a weekly email, This Week in Graphic Medicine. So if you're just kind of looking for things that he's sort of a lightning rod, so things that people send him, things that he becomes aware of, he puts in this weekly kind of roundup, and that also gets posted on graphicmedicine.org.
So Alice also mentioned the Graphic Medicine Book Club kits multiple times. Again, Matthew No started them while he was here, and we're continuing to send them out. So if you're in the New England region, check them out. I'm happy to send them out. If you are not in the New England region, I'm happy to share any of the information we include in them as a way to start thinking about maybe running some book club kits or things like that. So we have a couple more. Yes,
Sarah did not ask me to plug those so much. They just were great.
So we have two questions that actually seem to be related, so I think they're going to make a good stopping point. Resources for interprofessional practice and education initiatives, and then working with mid-career clinicians with these materials. Any thoughts, any resources that might be available?
If you're trying to reach out to mid-career clinicians, I'm trying to remember. I think there's, who is it at Pitt that writes about it and has the curriculum? No? Okay.
We may have to dig this up and send it around.
Yeah, we may have to, I can answer this, but I don't have my notes with me.
Okay. So Tori has a suggestion, but she's going to have to dig up the link and everything, so we'll send it around. This is being recorded, and everybody who's registered will get an email when the recording goes up, and it'll include anything else that we think of for some of these things. Alice, any thoughts about working with other populations or mid-career clinicians?
You know, I don't have any experience with that yet, although I did mention this course that I'm collaborating on, and the person who's leading that is the clerkship director for psychiatry here, and so I've had some conversations with him, but he's certainly very excited about this. So I think there is, is an audience for, among clinicians for these titles. It's just figuring out how to reach them and, what kind of support or what kind of activities might really work for them. So I don't have experience with that yet, but I think the audience is there, as well as a general audience. For public libraries to do this, I think, these works are so, they really speak to such personal experiences. I think they have such a broad appeal.
So I will also second that, in that we've sent the book club kits out to academic medical libraries, but then also to public libraries, to teen groups, to public health folks, to community-based organizations, and they've all found ways to use them with their different populations, and each population sort of gets a slightly different thing out of it. But because they are talking about issues that affect pretty much everybody, depending on the topic of the book, there's an audience for it outside of these academic institutions that we've mostly been focused on here today.
And I am also the liaison to nursing at our hospital, and I have been in the back of my head thinking about ways to design a program that might reach out to nurses. So if anybody else has experience doing that, I'd be curious to hear how it's gone for you.
Okay. So I think we are coming to the end of our session here today. I threw in, there we go. I threw in 2 slides about Medline Plus because there's some need for supporting some of this information with sort of the best practices of medical. We're talking about people's personal experiences and then building around that. So just a reminder, if you're familiar with Medline Plus, that it's there for you for health information needs. And if you have populations that you might need information in other languages, it's also there as well. So that is all I have for folks today. Once you close out of the presentation, there will be a feedback survey. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And like I said, this presentation has been recorded, and so once it is up online, that link will be sent to you, as well as any other information, the slides and any follow-up links that were promised. Okay. So thank you.